How you doing? Good, man. Likewise.
Joan's out.
Oh, she is.
She's
Same.
out.
She's
I don't know what's going
sick or?
on.
I just,
I'd like to bring to order the City of Riverbank's Special Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, May 5th, 2015. Call to order.
Chair Hughes,
Here.
Vice Chair Dagley,
here?
Commissioner McKinney,
Here.
Commissioner Stewart, and Commissioner Villebedois.
Here.
And let the record show that Commissioner Stewart is excused.
Okay. Moving on to conflict of interest. Any planning commission, authority member, and staff who has a direct conflict of interest on any scheduled agenda item to be considered are to declare their conflict. Are there any conflicts of interest? Hearing none, we'll move to public comments. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Planning Commission Board. Individual comments will be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes per person, and each person may speak once during this time. Time cannot be yielded to another person. Under state law, matters presented during the public comment period can be discussed or acted upon. For record purposes, state your name and city of residence. Please address the entire Planning Commission Board. Are there any public comments?
Yes, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Rich Homer, one of the hats I wear is I'm Vice Chairman of the Historical Society. And as you look down about 2 parcels, you'll see one that is vacant right now. And what we're doing is we are working with an architect to bring something to you and also to the general public in a fundraising effort to construct a 3,000 square foot addition to the museum so we can house things like our 1919 Model T fire truck, which was the first fire truck in Riverbank. And one way we do this is through fundraising, and I did want to make you aware that on Sunday, May 17th, there's an omelet breakfast. It's at the community center. Prices are $7 for adults and $3 for children 12 and under. If you're interested, I happen to have some tickets with me that I'd be happy to sell to you tonight. And if not, you can buy them at the door. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Rich.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are to be acted upon by single action of the Planning Commission unless otherwise requested by an individual Planning Commissioner member for special consideration. Otherwise, the recommendation of staff will be accepted and acted upon by roll call vote. Item 2.A, item 2.B, item 2.C. I have a motion.
I move we accept items 2A, all the consent items, 2A, 2B, and 2C.
I second.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Chair Hughes, and Vice Chair Dagley, and Commissioner Villebedois.
Yes.
Okay, moving over to item 3. Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, this is a clicker. This is a project. This is a conditional use permit, 01-2015 by Galaxy Theaters, and the project is a request to construct an 8,750 square foot expansion of the existing Galaxy Theater complex to include an additional 452-seat IMAX theater at the western end of the existing facility. Project is located at 2525 Patterson Road, APN 075-008-029. The property is zoned PD 42, and that the proposed addition is suggested to be 48 feet in height, which is adjacent to 30 feet. The adjacent accessory structures are about 30 feet in height. The result would be that they would be removing 52 parking spaces to construct this project, and I'll go through a PowerPoint for you and kind of go through a little more of the project specifics. The staff report is contained on page 11 of your agenda package, and then I'm going to be going through that. There is a revised resolution that's part of your package, which kind of cleans up a couple different things, references to city codes, and then also the fact that we actually only have one attachment, Exhibit A, which talks about the site floor plan elevations, which are part of the presentation tonight. The conditions are contained actually in the resolution, so it's a little bit different. The conditions are very simple. You know, the first condition is our standard conditions, which we deliberated on and had quite a bit of time and attention spent on it, which was the 2013 -013 standard conditions, which are available on the website, et cetera, and then 2 other special conditions on the project. So it makes it a little easier for us to track long term. Anyway, Galaxy Theaters, everybody's aware of it. This is a special planning commission meeting. Thank you, commissioners, for allowing us to do this. There were a couple issues that I was working through with the applicant, and I was hopeful we'd be able to keep this planning commission date, because I know Galaxy Theater has a number of things that they have to deal with in order to prepare for and submit actual construction drawings to the city for building permits. So this is a conditional use permit. It's a change in use from that which was approved as part of the original PD 42, which is why we're coming to the commission for the review of the architecture, the proposed expansion, and proposed change in the PD 42. So that's kind of what this goes through. The project, again, is an expansion of the existing theater complex. They're going to use the same primary entrance, same restroom facility, same concession stands, concessions areas that are existing, and basically they'll open up the western end of the theater complex to expand into the IMAX theater that's proposed as part of the project. The difference is, of course, is they're going to be, eliminating 52 on-site parking spaces, which, quite frankly, is and has been an issue. So we'll go through that in a little bit further. January '99, of course, the original approvals came by the City Council. Shortly thereafter, the project was built. May of 2003, they modified the development plan to include the construction of a restaurant, and that was initially Flicks, which is now Cool Hand Luke's. September of '08, as you're aware, they received approval for beer and wine, which they never implemented. And then again, in September of 2013, they received a conditional use permit from this commission to allow the sale of on-site sale of beer and wine, restricted size cups, and then it also was part of a more extensive remodeling project, which this community has benefited from tremendously. The remodel project was completed in 2014, which resulted in the number of theater seats being reduced from 2677 to, 1197 now. So just basically just under 1,200 luxury seats is available in the 12 theaters as part of the Galaxy Theater complex. Architecture, again, you're talking about an 8,700 square foot building, adding on to an existing 56,840 square foot theater complex. The new structure is going to be about 48 feet in height. The existing building ranges in heights from 32 to 42 feet. Primarily is around 32 feet, but it's got some projections that are higher than that. So I want to make sure everyone's aware that it's predominantly much taller. In this case up to 16 feet taller than the average height, if you will, of the existing building, and that's to accommodate the IMAX theater and the seating and the elevation changes that are necessary for that type of screen. The elevations are presented in your package. Clearly illustrates a similar theme than what we currently have out there now. It is a little bit taller, and it is, again, constructed at the extreme western end of the project. The parking, the original PD, which is authorized by City
Don,
Council.
Can we go back to that?
Sure.
So it's going to be, is this what it's going to be?
This is what it's going to look like looking at it from the south, so looking head on to it. You'll see the new IMAX Theater off to the left.
Oh, so it's going.
Off to the left, off to the west side,
And it's
towards Cool Hand Luke's, correct.
directly attached to the current,
Directly attached to the current building.
not a breezeway.
Not a breezeway. And in fact, they're using the existing entrance. They'll have emergency exits, obviously, out of this new expansion, but all the, the major entrance, concessions, restrooms, et cetera, will all be contained within the existing theater complex. Same location. Same location. Anthony, is it all right if I proceed?
Yeah.
Okay. Parking. The original PD authorized by the City Council allowed for deviation from the local, from the city standard, which is 1 parking space per 3 seats, to 1 parking space per 4.7 seats. The proposed building will eliminate 52 parking spaces. I've already described that, which, and then of course is proposing to create 452 new theater seats. Applicant has suggested, and they've actually done field survey to verify, that there are a total of 573 parking spaces currently marked and available on site. Wait a minute. It will be available after the project is complete. Sorry, after the project's completed. The overall parking ratio after the project's completed is about 1 parking space per 3.4 seats. So the big concern has always been, quite frankly, since the remodel, is that they've been very successful. Great. I mean, that's a wonderful thing. We just want to make sure they're not underparked. They want to make sure they're not underparked either. Quite frankly, because then they don't serve their clients. We are concerned with this. We also know that there are a number of parking spaces, at the rear of the facility that still, even in fairly busy days, don't have folks parked within them. So it appears, at least on the face, even with the expansion, that they're going to be able to be very close to the city parking standard of 1 parking space per 3.4 seats. Then again, the total theater seating after the IMAX, so again, adding to the reduced seating as part of the remodel, which is now under 1,200 seats. The 452 new seats gets us to 1,649. So again, it just talks about the fact that we're still concerned. And we've worked with the applicants to identify, available parking at the end of the project. Storm drains is another issue. All the storm drain connected or collected on this project is a direct discharge without any kind of filtration into the Jackson Avenue storm line. And this storm water is a direct discharge to the Stanislaus River. So because of the new state requirements relative to water quality, we're making sure that they provide appropriate stormwater filtration for this expansion, as well as getting us long-term monitoring and maintenance agreement for this property specifically. So this shows vicinity map. The expansion obviously would be to the west, again towards Cool Hand Luke's. Then it shows that if it's not, basically it's building and parking. We're not talking about converting agricultural site to urban use. It's fully urbanized. We're not talking about any new encroachments out onto Patterson Road, or out onto Jackson, or out onto Estelle either. So it's all existing encroachments. So again, photographs of the existing building, which we're all familiar with. Parking behind, obviously. And I know they're probably going to talk a little bit about this because they've had some management issues with lighting and security back here, so they'll talk about that through their presentation. And then the site plan, which shows where the building would be located, again at the western end. And then this kind of shows what the theater would look like as an overlay. And this is kind of a close-up of the building expansion And you can see how it's connected in that one spot. And this would be the theater itself. And then we've reviewed the project. We believe it's categorically exempt because it's an infill property.
Hey, John, was that a two-story? Is it?
Well, I
Seating
mean,
wise
it,
right
it
there?
kind of is two-story, just the way that the screen is oriented and the way that the seats are projected up away from the base floor. So that's why it has to be, 48 feet in overall height. So it's as if it's a two-story structure, but the reality is it's all single-story. There's not a balcony, if that's what
Okay,
you mean.
it looked like a balcony.
There's no
That's what I thought.
balcony.
Okay.
Just a question on that. The 48 feet is within the zoning standards?
60 feet is maximum, I
Okay.
believe. Actually, no, 70. Sorry, maximum 70. Yeah, 70. Let me go back. Okay, so I go back to that right there. That'd probably be the best. So after having said that, the applicants and their representatives are here in the audience. In your staff report and presentation are attachments. The attachments include site plan, architecture, photos of the site, statements by the project proponents talking about the facts of the project, and then a statement by the applicants supporting the project and the findings that are necessary for the conditional use permit. And then attachment 6 is a conceptual filtration device that the applicants are suggesting at this point. So it's fairly detailed what their thought process might be. And then attachment 7 is public agency comments of note, one of which was Caltrans. Early on, Caltrans felt that without any additional information that perhaps an updated traffic analysis would be necessary. And I reminded them of the prior approvals that had been given by the city for this complex and the anticipation that there's going to be a much larger project and much larger traffic impact. And actually, even with this expansion, it's still under the thresholds that were previously considered. So once I shared that information with Caltrans, they gave me a letter back that said that they agreed the traffic analysis would not be necessary. So that's in the record as well. And then I've got, and I've already described this, I've got a revised Planning Commission resolution which with the 3 specific conditions, and then attached to that will be site, floor plan, and elevation plans.
And John, for the record, can you go over those changes that are in the most recent resolution?
Well, I mean, it's one change is the reference specifically to the code that we're talking about, and it's the code relative to conditional use permit. That was one change. The other was just clarification within the body of the resolution. We moved, for example, the height of the structure and the elimination of the parking spaces down into the body of the resolution rather than, you know, in the physical description up front. We could have done it either. We could have done it either way, but we just, you know, that's just a point of clearing it up a little bit.
You're referencing number 3
Um,
on page 3.
No, on the resolution itself? No, the resolutions, I'm referring to the headlines on page 1, where we're describing what it is, what action the commission's taking. What I've done is we've taken the information relative to the height of the proposed structure and the fact that we're removing, you know, these existing parking spaces, and to put them in the body of the findings of the resolution. So that's what I was trying to get at. And then, quite frankly, there's only one exhibit, and that's the exhibit that I've referenced, which is the site floor plan elevations, rather than a separate exhibit for the conditions, because the conditions were actually in the body of the resolution itself. So anyway, so there's some minor changes, but I wanted to make sure that that was clarified. After having said that, I mean, staff has reviewed it. We think it's a great project. I think it meets all of the standards. Again, the one concern was, you know, relative to parking. We've had discussions with the project proponents about other alternative uses of portions of this property, and what we've suggested as a condition, because quite frankly, we don't know exactly what the end result is going to be with this addition and what effect it's going to have on the site's parking, that, you know, any change in use, you know, beyond what we're talking about here would have to would have to require an additional parking analysis. Just because, yeah, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We got to really understand it. So it's a big issue.
We're at 3.4 in this.
We're at 3.4, but the argument is that when the council initially approved this, they granted a much larger variance. And my argument is a much different deal. It wasn't the same kind of use, same kind of character that we're seeing today, which really puts it in the applicant's lap that if he can demonstrate that there is additional parking to support additional uses or land divisions on this property, then so be it. I mean, let's let that be presented in the future. Yeah.
Hey, John, I'm coming up with 2.86 per parking on the 1649 at the end when it's all completed.
Uh-huh.
And the total new parking spaces will be 576.
Mhm.
It's 2.86 or 2.87 per seat. So 3.4.
You got to add in Cool Hand Luke's.
Oh, they're
Yeah, Cool
parking
Hand
is-
Luke's has an obligation in there too. So if you look at the analysis that was done, there's Cool Hand Luke's has an obligation.
80 parking spaces.
Yeah, it's in my analysis in the staff report because I broke it down a couple different ways.
taking into consideration their parking spaces.
Right.
Got it.
Right. That's all I have.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this item number? 3.1?
Hi, my name is Garnett Martin. I'm a director on the Riverbank Chamber of Commerce. I reside in Modesto, but I've always had a love for Riverbank. And if I didn't live next door to my sister, I would live in Riverbank. I'm here to encourage the board or panel or whatever you guys are called to move forward. I have a lot of friends in Modesto who are movie people, and they only come to Riverbank. And now that Riverbank has become a real luxury theater, they are really coming. And I think adding an IMAX is a huge task that Riverbank needs to take on. It puts us really on the map to continue to grow and bring our community together and have people, instead of say, where is Riverbank, they know where Riverbank is. So I really want to encourage the board to move forward on this and approve it. Thank you.
Can you sign I'm sorry, can you please sign the sheet up front so we have that for the record? I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Speak to item 3.1? Anyone else here tonight that would like to speak to item 3.1?
Been so long since I do this, not very often. Good evening,
Good evening.
Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission. First of all, I would like to commend staff on working with us on this project. Galaxy Theater thought long and hard before they authorized that an IMAX theater be constructed. It's a $3.5 million project, so it's something you do. We at one time had talked about a parcel split and some other things, but in the end it came to this. We're excited. We think that not only will the IMAX theater itself draw Riverbank residents and probably people from other community to the theater, but also, I think, serve to accelerate the process of retail, commercial shops in the vacant parcels that sit on the south side of Patterson. We have done some things already to help. We're aware of the parking. We think there's sufficient parking. We've actually reduced the parking from what it was at one time. by over 500 seats. So there is a maximum number of seats. It's not like a ball game where everybody comes in at one time and everybody leaves at one time. There's always a constant people coming, people leaving. As John mentioned, there are no new concessions, there are no new restrooms, there are no new facilities other than the IMAX theater itself. The reason for the height, have you ever been to an IMAX theater? Is to get the effects, and the effects are really astounding. I remember the first one I ever saw was Everest, and there was an avalanche, and I really felt like I was going to be swept away with the avalanche. So it was really exciting. We also know that in the past, we haven't needed those back parking spaces to any large degree, and they will have to be used now. But we have put in cameras throughout the back area, so they can be watched, and also on Friday and Saturday nights, which are usually our biggest nights. We do have security that walks around the building as long as there's movies playing. So this is Nathan Paul. He's the general manager of, yeah, go ahead and come up and.
Pretty much everything that, has been gone over so far is the extent of my knowledge about it. But I think, in my opinion, is it'll be a great thing for Riverbank to have. I mean, everyone I know has been to an IMAX, but anyone who lives around here has to go to Stockton, Sacramento, Fresno. That, they won't have to do that anymore. And it'll bring other people who are in between those areas over here. It's going to be a huge magnet. It's, only can assume that it's going to bring more business to other restaurants who, especially people who come from out of town, they want to maybe stop and get something to eat before they drive back home. I can't think of anything really negative that bringing the IMAX here could possibly have. So that's all I have.
Rod has been our engineer. And Rod, do you want to add anything or something I've missed or overlooked?
I want to clarify one thing, and it's been just
Step up to the microphone, please, sir. Thank you.
Rod Hawkins and Associates, and civil engineer for the project, and it's inconsequential and insignificant, but it's been misstated a couple times. There will be some restrooms added as part of the IMAX.
Yeah.
The concessions and the ticket booths are all the same, that entryway, but there will be some additional restrooms.
That's right.
But inconsequential to the project. Just wanted to make sure it was clarified for the record. So.
Right. You're
But other
right.
than
I apologize for that, Rod.
problem.
It's on the site plan, but the primary focus is the entrance that's
Right.
there. Anyway.
I just didn't want someone to go to the new theater and go, hey, wait a minute, we
Yeah.
were told there's no restrooms. Anyway, so, but other than that, any other questions, I'll be happy to answer.
I do have a question. So it sounds like the parking is a real concern for everyone. And if you're using the same entrance, exactly how far to the end of that building, to the parking area that's going to be along the west side? Because my concern, what I'd like to bring up is the disabled parking.
The
'Cause it's
disabled
quite a
parking won't
distance from your-
change, and the majority of it is located on the east side of the building currently, and it would remain there. Are we adding?
Would you have anything then to the west to accommodate those people that are parking in that area to the west of that building?
Well, everybody would still have to come through the main entrance, even to get into the theater.
Probably put more handicap parking
The
in the front.
distance would be the
So,
same.
I don't think
so
you,
this is the same entrance, so they go through here to get into this facility. So your question is,
From there,
so where is the handicap parking
the
now?
handicap parking's on the right
Here?
there. That's all handicap parking there. It's actually closer to the main entrance
Here.
than it would be to the IMAX screen
So the
itself.
question is, are we giving up any handicap parking here?
No, no.
and
And we already meet the requirements for 2,200 individuals
so,
with our current handicap parking.
But you don't have any handicap parking on the west side, only the east side.
Only the
Oh,
east
here.
side. But it,
How many spaces for handicap there?
what, 20?
Thereabouts, yeah.
And how many parking spaces do you have totally then for this new?
400 and,
That's the completion of the project.
4 per 100. Well, it gets,
489.
it starts 4 per 100 and then it gets less as you get more parking spaces. I'd have to look, but but basically we're removing 52 spaces. So assuming that we were adequately parked with handicap parking before, we still meet their code requirement.
is this also taking into consideration the dental practices that just came
On
about?
a separate parcel.
Correct.
That's over here.
I know they have their parking as well, but does that kind of tee into this as well?
Not really in terms of parking counts and things like that. No, it's totally, they're
Yep.
independent.
They have the required number of stalls.
On their property,
Right.
yes.
There's a vacant lot there as well.
Yes?
Right.
But it's Cool Hand Luke's that you'll share 80 parking spaces.
We already are. That's included in that
I didn't
number,
see that.
and that ratio
It's
is,
in here.
It's right here on
and that
page
ratio
14.
is 3,
80 spaces.
There's 87 spaces that are set aside for Cool Hand Luke's.
Leaves 489 for the theater.
Sharing those spaces?
exactly.
Along with access and lighting and all kinds of other things.
Yeah, the lighting in the back is quite good. There's no issues with lighting.
As far as the height, is there height restrictions?
70 feet is what the
Max.
code says, is max.
This is 40.
It's 48.
Yeah, if you go down to Dublin where there's a Regal Theater there, which I think's the closest, you'll notice that there's one area where it is quite tall, and that's where your IMAX theater is in Dublin.
A question on, any comments from the residents behind the structure? I know when it first came about, there was some talk about there's going to be too much lights and, nighttime activity and...
No, we've never received any comments, and I've gone back there at night, and the way the lighting is, it's right down on the ground. It doesn't impact the residents behind it.
And it's the
So
school
have we
lot.
sent any information out to those residents to get comments?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
there's 3 forms of notification. One is a normal notice in the Riverbank News. The other is there's actually physically a sign on the site that's been there to let folks in the area know this hearing's happening. And the other is there's a notice that's physically sent to all those folks within 300 feet of the project. So all 3 forms of notification were all part of the process, and notification of tonight's special planning commission meeting.
I know you said that Caltrans said that a traffic study was not necessary.
Yes.
Seeing that it's getting on that Patterson, there is congestion there along when you have major feature films, something like that. And there seems to be, when you're turning into the main entrance, is there going to be something to control that so that we can minimize incidents that happen along that Patterson corridor? When you're turning in, when you're coming towards, say you're going towards,
You're going west, you turn in,
right, you
left.
turn in left. See, because we've had a lot of issues with that, with opposite going traffic, because it's not really a turning lane.
well, it is actually a turning lane. It's into the theater. That's one of the purposes of that. I don't see any changes in that right now. I think why Caltrans actually decided that there was no need for a traffic study right now, and I'm reiterating what John said, is that there are less seats now than there were a year ago.
But we were increasing seats when we put the IMAX.
We're increasing from what we have now. We dropped from 2645 down to 1,198. We're adding back 452. So we still have less seats than we had in the former theater grounds.
Okay.
And one thing, too, I think to take into consideration is that if you take all the movies that are shown during the day, and they're staggered, people are coming, people are going, but at any one time, if you take the whole day's use, the industry standard is usually your theater's about 18% utilized. So what that means is, of course, it's going to be utilized more probably at 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon than it's going to be used at 10 o'clock on Monday morning. But if you take all those statistics together, 18% is what you have of theater attendees to capacity of seating.
What I'm looking at is, I'm sure there's some type of study that was conducted to determine whether or not an IMAX was even going to be feasible to be in the area, right? You're going to have more customers, right? So which more customers comes more traffic.
You're going to get a different crowd. An IMAX is a more expensive theater. It is an experience. It's like, I think what Galaxy Theater has done over the last 4 or 5 years is they have that one theater where the seats move. They also have what's called a DFX, and why don't you explain how that works? Yeah, which is similar to an IMAX to some extent.
Yeah, our DFX screen is, simply put, is our version of IMAX. It's not the name brand, but, it's currently the biggest screen in the area. We have Dolby Atmos sound, which is we're the only theater in the area that has that. And there's a lot of, that draws a lot of attention in itself. When I first started there were days we used to do 5,000 or 6,000 tickets. Now we're just not even capable of doing that, even with the addition, just doing the numbers of how many potential showings throughout the day. And that site used to be able to handle that kind of traffic going in there. Dating myself a little bit, but Shrek 2 and Harry Potter 2 and those kind of movies, I remember, being there and seeing, 5,500 tickets on the day and that kind of stuff. And we just, even with the IMAX, I'd like to hope, but just looking at how much is actually, potential there, just for the time of the day, how long the movies are, it would be really, selling out every seat in the house all day long, maybe adding an extra midnight show in there, that kind of stuff, to get back to the numbers that, that site did in the past. And it handled it at that point, so.
Price for the IMAX theater?
Honestly, I don't know that yet, but I know at our theater in Sparks, Nevada, who has an IMAX, I believe it's $13.25 or $13.50. 25 or $13.50.
Oh, $13.25.
I know other IMAXs that are 18. So.
As far as for emergency vehicles, your fire lanes and things, how is that going to be affected?
It shouldn't be. I don't know if you can see on the picture right there, there's a little inlet in the front sidewalk there. That's the current fire lane. Kind of on the left side of the front sidewalk, and so that shouldn't be, as far as I'm aware, that shouldn't be impacted at all. Correct, yeah. A little bit down, right there. There you go. Yeah, so that should stay the same, and it's right next to the front door.
Kind of going back to what you said, and I noticed, you guys have the handicap parking, but given that this proposed new addition will be on the left-hand side, and you will have exits from that side, correct?
Yeah.
That is a longer, for those that choose to take out that exit, for folks that are in wheelchairs and so forth, that is more of a distance to go to than it was.
They would still have to travel the distance to get in the front door, however. the longer
Showing
distance.
access.
Correct.
Say
The
if we had
entrance,
parking spots on the left side,
the
it would
entry will be
still-
the same, but
Yeah.
the exit, they have that choice, but again, it'll be
Showing
a
exits here.
little bit longer, but.
Yeah, again, when they go through the building permit process, fire will get involved and everyone
Assess
else.
that correctly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So is this going to be the design of it? Because it looks like you have two separate theaters there. I mean, they don't look like they're complementing each.
From my experience, oftentimes that's the case because they want to separate a little bit and say, hey, this is our IMAX auditorium. So just from my experience at least, my personal experience, they do seem to do that on purpose.
Will there be an IMAX sign on the actual building itself?
There should be, yeah.
There's a dash showing right there.
Yeah.
I don't have my glasses
Oh,
on. so
yeah,
that
it's
tells-
actually showing
That
the
tells
building.
you why. I know usually the IMAX theaters are identified,
Yeah.
readily identified.
And this will take us from 12 to 13 screens?
Correct, yeah.
So outside of the, I guess the increased revenue that the theater will receive, what does the city get out of that outside of extra business coming in that should flow over to the neighboring businesses and things like that?
Our hope is just more traffic should, theoretically should equal more business for the other businesses in the area. People are coming into town who normally wouldn't come to town. They're going to, at least food. They should probably want to get some food on the way home. Maybe they'll have to pass some other stores to get here, depending on which direction they're coming from. And that's, I can only, theoretically state how that should work. But, I mean, if you have more volume coming to a certain area, it should be, more increased business to the other surrounding businesses.
Let me comment on that, just from an experience. When Target came to the Crossroads Shopping Center, that night, Kohl's came in to be at the grand opening. And when Kohl's got there, Broman Development, of course, is the developers of that project. When Kohl's got there, they were saying, we came through orchards and fields, and now we're here, and why are we here? And then once they took a look at what this brought, Riverbank sits in such a great position. We have all of East Modesto, Oakdale, Escalon, Houston, Waterford, all those towns. What the change has been with the new luxury seating is that you had a big seepage. When the AMC theaters opened up in Manteca, Galaxy Theater was losing patronage. For those who don't or do remember, Regal Theater wasn't always there. It was a signature theater. It went out of business, and then Regal Theater took it over. Also, when we were going through the first discussions here about the Galaxy Theater themselves, we were in a litigation with Brendan Theaters because they said we were too close to them and we'd take business away from them. What you have is you have a gem here. I believe that once, and IMAX has the name in the theater industry, and I think once that comes here, you're going to have the same effect as what Kohl's saw when Target had constructed their business. And that night, Kohl's signed on the dotted line and said, we're going to build a store here. So I think what's going to happen is you've got two vacant fields across the street. Several times you've had people like Walgreens, Burger King look at that and then decide not to. I think what you'll see is more retail. The stores that are already there, the restaurants, there's always that secondary, you've got to get gas, you've got to do this. It's going to bring the customers back to Riverbank that have gone to Regal, that have gone to AMC. It's going, and also when you have an IMAX theater, you have an area. You're paying for an area in which no one else can build that. So there'll never be another IMAX in Stanislaus County. There won't be one in Manteca. There probably won't be one in Merced. It'll be the only one, the only ball game in town, so to speak. So I think, to me, this is an incredibly exciting project. And what it does for Riverbank is we continue that progressive attitude that has really permeated the city for the last, I think, 20 years. And your approval tonight will help continue that and continue doing what is best for the citizens and residents of Riverbank.
For you, just a follow-up, at last we met, you had projected about 100,000 more people coming into Riverbank with the cup, with the new
Right, Luxury
wine
Plus.
and so on and so forth. And I was just wondering, are your ticket sales showing those 100,000 projections? It was possible, or it was actual? I think that was the proposal.
It would be pretty close. But once again, what you have to realize is we're regaining customers that we lost because of the leakage to AMC, to Regal. So that's, the Escalon residents are now coming back to Riverbank. And, you know, it's differing in some ways in that if you go there on a Friday night and expect, if it's for like the Avengers, you're not going to get a seat. You've got to, a lot of times, buy your tickets in advance. And a lot of people.
A plan in case there is an issue with the parking to alleviate some of that congestion, perhaps staggering
You can
larger
always,
populous films
sure.
at different times. to
It's, like I
accommodate.
said, it's not like a baseball game or a concert where everybody comes in at one time and everybody leaves at one time. You know, it's up to Nathan and his staff to come up with the most opportune plan so that it does stagger and there are sufficient parking when people come. And I think that's what you'll see.
It's a little frustrating the times I've been to the theater. I can't get a parking place up front, and I have to because I need to use the
Well,
handicap parking.
And two, if you're with someone, they can drop you off there. That's always an option. There's an area for that, and there is the handicap parking on the side.
One last question. What's the expected time of construction if this were to, when this takes place?
Initially, we were looking at December because we wanted to get Star Wars on the
Okay.
on the IMAX, which would be great. Last I heard, though, probably March.
16?
But who knows? Once construction gets started, if we have good weather, it could go faster. And
Did you bring any tickets tonight?
no, but if you come to the omelet breakfast, there will be some door prizes which include tickets.
I have a question. Does the city receive anything from ticket sales?
No, the city does not receive anything from ticket sales. They do receive sales tax from all the popcorn, beer, wine, soda, all of that.
And as far as I guess we already talked about the infrastructure, but I guess the grounds. Will there be any improvements to that to complement the new IMAX,
I'm certain there will be.
like landscaping? Is any of that going to change, or all you doing is just popping on the new?
Well, it will change, but we will make up for the landscaping that's lost by adding to that. Rod, do you want to speak to that?
To be relocated there.
There's not a dramatic new landscaping plan. It's what you see down at the very bottom are some additional planters to accommodate the new circulation at those parking spaces there to the south. When we just an analysis of the landscaping is I think we lose, well, there it is, 440 square feet of landscaping, and we replace it with 644. So there's not a new dramatic look or flare, but the landscaping will basically continue to be similar to what's there today, just a little more of it, not much.
What is the frontage, the new frontage footage on the IMAX building? What is that footage?
It's in your staff report, but it's 8750.
8750.
Yeah.
What's the overall cost of the construction?
3.5.
3.5.
Total cost.
Yeah, because what I see is that there will be an extra draw on city services as far as like maintaining the streets and whatnot, going in and out, as far as wear and tear on those particular.
It really, as a matter of perspective, when it was approved in 1998, the traffic was was estimated for 2,600 seats, and so now you're at 1,600 seats. So the traffic, the original approval was for a greater impact than what we're proposing here today. And I know in 1998 they participated in the traffic signals at Estelle and at Jackson. I believe both of them. I don't know that they installed them as part of the project, but I know they participated in those costs. So the traffic, and that's why Caltrans basically acknowledged that, yeah, the traffic impact that was anticipated, it's not as much as was anticipated originally.
Will safety issues increase?
I don't think that there will be any increase in safety. You mean, is there going to be problems necessarily with, say,
Or
additional?
more people, more problems?
Again, we reduced the number of seating, so I don't think there's going to be anything that has not been addressed previously in terms of potential. I mean, you asked earlier about emergency vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
There's a full access along the back that goes from Estelle to Jackson, and then you've got an additional, or I guess you come out Jackson mid-block. So you've got between those two points of connection, the main in front and the connection at Cool Hand Luke's, there's 4, 5 if you count going through Taco Bell through Delta Banks. There's 5 different points of access, so there shouldn't be any issues. There's full fire access roads around the perimeter. Fire department hasn't seen any issues with it. They haven't made any comments with regard to the site plan, so they're not concerned.
I'd like to see more handicap spaces closer to the center entrance, because when you look at that east side, and that's where you're accommodating your ADA people, look at how far they have to walk. Even when they're in the middle of the building where they enter, they're still, you said 87 feet plus that other half of the cinema that those people will have to have access to if they want to go to the IMAX. And I just think that's just really a long way for someone who has a cane or someone who has a walker.
We could definitely analyze that, take a look at it with the architect.
Because
I know one of the things
you're looking at it in the center, and they've got it all the way on the other side of the building. John, could you help me here with the pointer?
But what
Yeah,
you're saying,
I know what you're saying. What you're saying is that, you know, the
They're
distance
parking
here, and then you've got to go this
Then they've
distance to
got
go
all the
here.
way to the other side.
So what you're suggesting is to provide some additional handicap
Some
spacing in
trees,
this area that
closer.
cuts the distance.
Right.
Exactly right.
I understand.
We can cut and that's something we can definitely look at. The one advantage that I would point out on the east side is that you're parking directly against the building, so you're not having them cross any
cross the
traffic
traffic.
path.
No, that's correct
So.
too, but, I think some people would like less distance.
Sure.
And maybe
Well, and there may be
cross that.
there may be a trade-off there too, where
Right by the IMAX.
we could look at those
there in front.
spaces on the west side
there.
of the addition,
Right.
those that are staying,
Right
and
here.
maybe just, assuming we've got enough numbers, eliminate a couple on the east side and put them on the west side.
Well, based on what you see here, that actually may be a farther distance to go if you're coming out the front door.
Quite possibly.
If you
But
go all the way
if
on
you
the
go
other
through the-
side, but in
If you're
that
coming
one
out the rear
area.
door,
You exit there, a couple maybe.
Well-
And that's the difference. I mean, you got to go through the front door regardless.
Yeah.
But if you do exit on the west side, you'd be closer to your vehicle potentially
On just the
IMAX side.
on the IMAX side.
left
Yeah,
side.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I think we could take a look at that, see what we can accommodate.
Is there anything else?
Well, public
Commissioner?
hearing's still open.
So is there anyone else that would like to speak to this project? Ms. Anderson?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I'm here speaking as staff and in support of the staff recommendation for approval of this project, and wanted to speak to some of the questions that have come up in regards to the benefit to the city. You had an opportunity to hear the former city manager speak, who's actually speaking on behalf of the applicant, but on behalf of the city today, I just want to echo the value that an investment of this magnitude has for our city. This is what we exist to do, is to provide an environment for people to thrive, both businesses and families. And this is a perfect example of private investment for private sector to be successful. And when a private business is successful by providing a product that people want and are willing to drive for, that brings success to the city, both in terms of the property tax revenues, the sales tax revenue, the prestige associated with the Galaxy as it is today, and with the additional prestige that would be there. That is a catalyst for additional business investment on that Patterson corridor, which really is a key benefit. And so, and the question that was brought up, like, do we get anything out of the ticket sales, or do we get anything out of, what else do we get besides the sales tax, is that we get the business catalyst. So just like we don't get anything from the sale of items at CVS or anything from that, because that's not the way that's not really how we're set up to operate. We're set up to create the opportunity for private sector to succeed and to be successful, to make money that can then be used by people who work at those facilities, that can then support their families and then buy things from CVS, can buy things from Pizza Plus, can participate in the economy in that cycle. So I just want to speak to the value of this type of investment, and Galaxy's been a very good partner for the city, both in terms of investing in business as well as giving back to the community. And so I'm speaking as the city manager in support of the staff recommendation for approval of this project. We think it's going to be very good for the city.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Ms. Anderson. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this project before we close the public hearing? Seeing none, we'll now close the public hearing. Commissioners,
I have no further questions.
any further questions?
nope, I'm fine, thank
Will
you.
there be a motion then for item 3.1?
I move we adopt Resolution 2015-012, a resolution approving the request of Galaxy Theater for the continued use permit application, number 01-2015.
I second it. Oh, go ahead.
Second that.
Okay, roll call?
Chair Hughes,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dagley,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
and Commissioner Villapodua.
Yes.
We'll be moving on to number 4, commission items. None? Okay, number 5, county referral, correspondence, information.
We don't have any at this point.
Number 6, upcoming meeting agenda items.
We're still working with the Cuffle family on their parcel map on Patterson Road. Forest Street parcel map has been referred out for comments from agencies, and we're doing some additional research on the building permit activity and the existing structure that's there. Taking a little extra time on this project because it's designated for multifamily housing, zoned R3, and quite frankly, we're a little protective of these types of sites. We want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, so we're taking an extra look at it. Ward Villas They have a number of different items that they're working on to address. Actually, Rod Hawkins is the engineer on that project, so they're working on those items, and I suspect they'll be getting something back to us fairly quickly.
Okay.
At the last planning commission meeting, you guys asked for additional information from Michael Rydell on water. Michael isn't available this week. He's had some issues going on, but we would like, in fact, we'll make sure that Michael's available for our June planning commission meeting to respond to the concerns that were raised by the commission. After that, I mean, I don't have any other items for this month, so we had our meeting this month, special planning commission meeting. So our next meeting after we adjourn tonight would be June 16th.
Oh, okay.
Can we have a motion to adjourn, please?
I had a quick, just a comment on, or a thought here. I've seen this in Modesto, like the spring cleaning. They put all their shrubs and things on their sidewalk. Do we do that here in Riverbank? Just a question, I don't know. Bulk pickup there?
Is it twice a year, isn't it?
Yeah, it's twice
Yep.
a year.
Twice a year?
I believe it's,
Call them and Jolton, and they will deliver a dumpster to
we
your
pay
house.
for that, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
it's part of your
Part of our
contract.
bill,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
part of your bill.
Did not know that. Thank you. Need one. That's it for me.
I would like to thank Galaxy Theater representatives for coming down and making a huge investment in our city and being serious about it, and the additions that you're making. I'm sure that we both will benefit from this great advancement that you guys are setting forth here.
Well said.
So,
I'll move we adjourn.
second that.
The Tuesday, May 5th special planning commission meeting for the city of Riverbank is now adjourned. Thank you.